She was gone in 20 minutes. Not in the dark. Not in a remote location. Not without witnesses. In broad daylight. On a road she had ridden 100 times before. With people watching. Before she left the house that morning, she told her mother something. She said, "If I'm not back by noon, come look for me." She was 19 years old. She had a tennis date with her boyfriend at 12:30. She was not preparing for the worst. She was managing her afternoon. Within days of her disappearance, people in the town of Belen were already quietly saying they knew exactly what happened and exactly who did it. Tara Calico disappeared on September 20th, 1988. In 1998, a judge officially declared her death a homicide. As of today, no one has been charged. Tara Lee Calico was born on February 28, 1969. She grew up in Belen, New Mexico, a small city in Valencia County, about 30 miles south of Albuquerque. By the time she was 19, she was a sophomore at the University of New Mexico Valencia campus, studying psychology, working part-time at the First National Bank of Belen, planning a future. People who knew her described her as sharp and driven, not the kind of person who drifted, the kind of person who knew exactly where she was going. Belen in 1988 was, and still is, a tight-knit community. The kind of place where your neighbors know your name, where your parents went to school with your friends' parents, where news travels fast, and old loyalty travels faster. Tara rode her bicycle along Highway 47 regularly. It was her routine, a long stretch of flat open road through the Rio Grande Valley. She knew every mile of it. Her mother, Patty Dole, had grown uneasy about the rides. She had noticed something. A motorist, she believed, had been pacing Tara on previous rides, following at a slow speed, watching. Patty had stopped riding with Tara because of this unease. She suggested Tara carry mace. Tara rejected the idea. She was 19 years old. She was riding a road she knew completely, in a town she had lived in her entire life. What could go wrong? September 20th, 1988. A Tuesday morning. Clear sky, warm desert sun. Tara left her home at approximately 9:30 in the morning. Her mother's pink 10-speed Huffy bicycle, her Sony Walkman, cassette tape. She told her mother, "If I'm not back by noon, come look for me." She had a tennis date with her boyfriend at 12:30 that afternoon. She was not preparing for the worst. She was managing her afternoon. What happened next took less than 20 minutes. Witnesses on Highway 47 that morning reported seeing Tara riding her bicycle. She was seen. She was there. Then, in the space of 20 minutes, between the last confirmed sighting of her on the road and the moment her mother went looking, she was gone. No bicycle, no Walkman, no Tara. The only things left behind were found the next day. Her mother discovered a Boston cassette tape on the side of the road, 3 miles from the house, on the opposite side of the highway, as if she had dropped it while riding away from home. Later, part of her Sony Walkman was recovered, 19 miles east of Highway 47, near a remote campground. Patty Dole believed her daughter had dropped those items deliberately, to mark her trail, to leave a path for someone to follow. Someone had taken her somewhere, and Tara, even then, was trying to be found. For years, the investigation focused on one primary lead. Multiple witnesses had reported seeing an older model truck, a 1953 to 1955 Ford truck, slowly following Tara on the morning she disappeared, pacing her, matching her speed, That truck became the central image of the early investigation, the detail that every search focused on. But there was another witness account, one that received far less attention at the time, one that investigators now believe is the most important testimony in the entire case. A witness reported seeing a group ahead on the road, in Tara's path. 2 cars, 4 or 5 young men, 1 woman, parked across the road, waiting. One man, tall, without a shirt, was waving his arms. Others appeared to be hiding behind one of the cars. A confrontation, planned and positioned, with Tara riding directly toward it. That witness, the one who saw the group waiting in the road, died before the case reached its current stage. Their testimony exists in the record. The person who gave it is gone. Lieutenant Rowland, the Valencia County investigator leading the most recent phase of this investigation, stated what he now believes. What seems certain is that a confrontation ensued between Tara Calico and that group of young adults that day, the result of which Tara Calico did not survive. On June 15, 1989, 9 months after Tara Calico vanished from Highway 47, a woman found a Polaroid photograph in a parking lot in Port St. Joe, Florida. The photograph showed 2 people. A young woman lying on her side, her wrists bound, something covering her mouth. And beside her, a young boy, also bound, also gagged. They were lying in what appeared to be the back of a vehicle. Near the young woman's body, a paperback book, My Sweet Adrena, by V.C. Andrews. Tara's mother, Patty Doyle, was shown the photograph. She said the young woman was her daughter. She also confirmed something else, something that made her certain. Tara had been reading V.C. Andrews novels. She owned them. She loved them. The photograph was turned over to the FBI. The FBI laboratory in Quantico analyzed it. What the evidence actually shows is more complicated and more significant than it is often presented. Scotland Yard analyzed the photograph and concluded the woman was consistent with being Tara Calico. A forensic scientist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory examined the same photograph and stated the woman was definitely not Tara. The FBI examined the photograph 3 times. Their official position across all 3 examinations was inconclusive. 3 separate analyses, 3 different conclusions. The FBI's official position, inconclusive. There was one more detail about the photograph that almost nobody mentions. A police sergeant who examined the photograph noticed something unusual. There was no redness around the tape on the mouths of the 2 people shown. No irritation, no marking. Which would indicate, he said, that the tape had not been on their mouths for an extended period of time. And Polaroid officials confirmed that the specific film used in the photograph was not available until May 1989, 9 months after Tara disappeared. If the photograph was genuine, Tara was alive for at least 9 months after she vanished. If the photograph was staged, someone created it for a reason, and then, decades later, investigators would say something that reframes the photograph completely. They believe the photograph was a distraction, that it pulled resources, attention, outside of the local area, and that it afforded the real suspects, local suspects, the opportunity to remain under the radar. The photograph that the world fixated on, the photograph that generated thousands of tips, the photograph that became the defining image of this case, may have been the very reason the people responsible were never caught sooner. The Polaroid showed 2 people. Most coverage focuses entirely on the young woman. But the boy in the photograph had a family too. Michael Henley, 9 years old. He disappeared on April 9th, 1988, 5 months before Tara. Michael had been camping with his father in the Zuni Mountains of New Mexico. He wandered away from camp, He was reported missing. Searches found nothing. When Michael's family was shown the Polaroid photograph, they believed the boy shown was their son. In 1990, skeletal remains were found in the Zuni Mountains, about 7 miles from where Michael had last been seen. They were identified as Michael Henley. Police concluded he had wandered from camp and died of exposure. Case closed. The identification was based on clothing found with the remains, but here's what almost no one discusses. That identification, in 1990, was not based on DNA analysis. DNA analysis was not standard forensic practice in 1990. The identification was made on the basis of clothing, which means one of two things must be true. Either the remains were genuinely Michael Henley, in which case the boy in the photograph was someone else entirely, or the remains were misidentified, in which case Michael Henley was alive in May 1989 when that photograph was taken. This specific contradiction has never been properly re-examined using modern DNA analysis. In a case full of unanswered questions, this may be the most important question nobody is asking. While the world was focused on a photograph in Florida, something else was happening in Belen. People were talking. Not to investigators, not to the FBI, to each other. A woman named Melinda Esquibel grew up in the community. She told investigators and journalists what she had heard. She believed a group of local boys had stalked Tara after she rejected one of them. More than that, she said she had information suggesting that a group of young men had allegedly planned an abduction 4 days before Tara disappeared. If that is accurate, what happened to Tara Calico on September 20th, 1988 was not opportunistic. It was premeditated, thought out, planned, executed. Esquibel said something else, something that captures the specific nature of small-town silence. What makes the town charming, she said, is the same thing that makes it kind of scary. That you will go to great lengths to protect your own. Protect your own. A phrase that means something very specific in the context of this case, because the name that investigators keep returning to, the name attached to the most significant testimony in the entire case, is not the name of a stranger. Lawrence Romero Jr. His father, Lawrence Romero Sr., was the Valencia County Sheriff at the time of Tara's disappearance. Lawrence Romero Jr. committed suicide in 1991, 3 years after Tara disappeared. Before he died, a man named Henry Brown came forward. Brown told police that Romero Jr. and several friends had openly discussed killing Tara on the day she went missing. He said he had seen what appeared to be a young woman's body wrapped in a blue tarp, buried in a makeshift grave on Romero's property. He said Romero, along with men named Dave Silva, Leroy Chavez, and a man with red hair, told him what happened. They had been in a truck on Highway 47 when they noticed Tara riding. While trying to get her attention, they struck her with the truck. They abducted her. They took her to a grave pit. They raped her. When Tara threatened to go to the police, Romero stabbed her to death. And then, the evidence failures. A pink bicycle, documented. Never collected, never tested. Underwear with the initials TC, documented. Never collected, never tested. Words in a file. Nothing more. Former Valencia County Sheriff Rene Rivera said this in 2008. The individuals who did harm to Tara knew who she was. And they're all local individuals. And I believe that the parents of the attackers helped with hiding the truth, hiding the body, trying to escape prosecution. The parents of the attackers, helping to hide the truth. In a county where the sheriff was the father of the primary named suspect. Between 1988 and today, 7 different sheriffs have held office in Valencia County. 7 different administrations. 7 different approaches to the Tara Calico case. Some more serious than others. while the investigation stalled and restarted and stalled again. One person never stopped. Patty Dole, Tara's mother. Patty spent the rest of her life looking for her daughter. She contacted investigators repeatedly. She gave interviews. She named names. She brought information to law enforcement that she had gathered herself. She moved to Florida, to a home with a bedroom kept ready. Ready for Tara, just in case. Patty Dole died in 2006. She never knew what happened to her daughter. She died not knowing. When Patty died, the most knowledgeable private investigator of this case died with her. The person who had spent 18 years gathering information. The person who knew the community. The person who had been listening to what the town was quietly saying for nearly 2 decades. Gone. In 2016, Lieutenant Rowland took over the Tara Calico investigation. He discovered something that should have been impossible. Items documented in the original investigation, never collected, never tested, existing only as words in a file. He rebuilt the investigation from the foundation. He re-interviewed witnesses. He followed leads that earlier investigations had left untouched. He worked with the FBI. And on June 13th, 2023, 35 years after Tara disappeared, Valencia County Sheriff Denise Vigil made an announcement. The investigation had been completed. Law enforcement believed there was sufficient evidence to submit the case to the District Attorney's Office for review of potential charges. The identities of the persons of interest, sealed by court order. For the first time in 35 years. Justice seemed possible. That was 2023. As of this recording, the prosecution remains in limbo at the District Attorney's Office. No charges have been filed. No arrest has been made. The case has not gone to trial. The statute of limitations has expired on every lesser charge. The only remaining window for justice: first-degree murder and certain sexual offenses. Lieutenant Rowland said something that should disturb anyone following this case. As time passes, we are losing more evidence than we are gaining. Witnesses dying. Memories fading. The people who know the truth growing older, and a district attorney's office holding a completed investigation in a drawer. Which brings us back to where we started. A mine shaft, 25 miles south of Belen, on a property once connected, in the 1950s, to the family of David Parker Ray. David Parker Ray was a New Mexico man who died in prison in 2002, serving more than 223 years. For the torture and abuse of multiple women, Ray is not a suspect in Tara's disappearance. Investigators believe he was living in Phoenix at the time. The mine shaft is being searched because of its geography, its location in the area of primary investigative interest. In 2025, investigators lowered fly traps into that shaft, looking for forensic evidence of human remains. As of the most recent available reporting, the investigation continues. 37 years. There is a specific cruelty to this case that goes beyond the death of Tara Calico. It is the cruelty of proximity. The people investigators believe are responsible for her death did not disappear, did not flee, did not vanish into anonymity in a distant city. They stayed. In Belen, in Valencia County, in the same community where Tara had lived, where her mother was asking questions, where her family was grieving. And for decades, the town protected them. Patty Dole kept a bedroom ready in her Florida home, until the day she died. A bedroom for a daughter who was never coming home. The most devastating kind of hope. The kind that outlasts all evidence, and still refuses to stop. Tara Calico was 19 years old. She was studying psychology. She was working at the bank. She was building something. She told her mother she would be home by noon. Some promises are kept by the people who receive them, long after the person who made them is gone. Patty Dole kept waiting. 37 years, someone in Belen, New Mexico has known the truth. And Tara Calico is still waiting to be found.